All set? Thanks. We'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance. Flag. Thank you. Consideration of the minutes of the December meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to postpone the consideration of the December 12th, 2024 minutes until...
Your mic's
We're
not
not on.
There's no green light on.
We don't have any green lights.
They couldn't.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Nothing's lit up here.
It's lit up here.
Test.
So I guess we're having a little audio problem, but we'll speak as loud as we can. If anyone can't hear anything, just let me know.
Okay, on the motion for the minutes of December 12th, I'm making a motion to postpone the consideration of those minutes until our February 13th meeting. Is there this? We just received them.
Yeah, we just received them.
Oh, okay.
So we just received the minutes from last month's meeting, so we did not have a time, the three of us, to review those. So we're just going to move that we consider the December minutes meetings at next month's meeting. Nice, second to motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Incidents reports, Captain?
All right. So incidents cases year-to-date 2024. So last month, December, we had 39 cases. 27 offenses came with those cases, and you'll see the backup regarding everything for that month and with the officer's name broken down. The arrest for 2024 for December, there were 3, down 50%. For November, which is only 6. So the arrests have gone down. You'll see it, which officer had it, and you'll see the personal analysis report also for the whole year, which we'll get to. Traffic stops last month, that went up 23.33% to 74. There were 14 tickets given out, so it's 18.92% chance of getting a citation last month. And you can see it's broken down by the officer and also by the street and what the citations were in the breakdown. Collisions last month, December, is down 25. That's a good one to be down. It's only 6, which is from 8 in November. So, and then we'll get to the whole year on this next slide here on personal analysis report. So you'll see the personal analysis report for the month. It's broken down, and then I compared it to 2023 for them. Sorry about that. For the month, so the incidents were 39 for December, 49 last year. Citations 82 for month, which is different than that one. Sorry about that. And citations for last year was 128 for that month. Then I did the whole year because we finished 2024. So I got that broken down. So incidents for the year were 596 compared to last year at 626. The arrest for last year was 159 compared to 2023, which was 261. Citations, and this means warnings, it doesn't mean actual citations given out, but actual stops, were 1,093 last year, and in 2023 it was 2,051. Accidents, that was down 144 last year compared to 23, which was 168. Parking tickets, last year was 285 compared to 23, which was 279. So that gives you a whole analysis of the year compared to, I only did 2023. If you want more, I can break it down. I can do 5 years. I can do whatever you guys need for next month. You'll see the school resource officer report. We only had one officer in there for the month of December, as we know that we pulled Officer Shanks out for that month due to staffing and field training. You had to do field training for the officers that came out of the academy. So you'll see that report, that's there. Prosecutors report. So we had 11 cases and then 5 cases that were parking issues from the summer. That came out to $4,135 for fines. The fines all go to the state. They don't come into the town unless they're parking site parking tickets that come into the clerk's office. But I don't have those down what they are. They're just 5 various parking tickets. So you see the cost of gas for last month. It went down to $2.46 from $2.55. We used $1,099.94 for the month of December, and that's gallons was 447 gallons compared to November, which was 526. So total year used for the year was 70% for the fuel. So we did pretty well. That's all I got for the report.
Thanks, Captain. Chief?
Good afternoon, everyone. I only have a few items that I want you to get you up to speed on. We're currently in a move within the police department into what we call Phase 2 out of 3 phases of the building project. As of today, actually, a lot of the items in each of the offices are being moved into boxes and being prepared to be moved into what, if you look at the building, you notice the old middle section, that is going to be our temporary home until the front of the building is gutted and then renovated. So we're in the midst of that right now. Since we last spoke, we have been in union negotiations. Can everybody hear me okay? Sorry about that. We've been in the midst of union negotiations. I believe we're nearing the end of that. And it's budget season, so we've been back and forth with the select board as well as the budget committee. And in fact, we have another meeting coming right up. There has been ongoing communication with prospective police officer candidates as we seek to fill the empty positions we have within the police department. I have recently given 2 conditional offers of employment to 2 candidates. Their background investigations have begun. Again, we have 2 that have been recently hired that the commission's aware of. One of those individuals is on their own. They've completed their FTO. The other one we expect in 3 weeks
Around there.
or so, and they too should be on their own. The only other thing I have to mention is the drone that was purchased with grant money. That training continues with 4 individuals, 2 from the police side, 2 from the fire side, and we're hoping to get those folks licensed, and then the training can begin for the rest of us.
2 more from communication.
And 2 more from communications, that's correct. And that's it for me.
Any questions for the chief?
No.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Commissioners' items, the next meeting will be Thursday, February 13th, 2025, 6 p.m. here at the Great Hall. So Thursday, February 13th, here at the Great Hall. That'll be the next Police Commission's meeting.
Time on that?
6 p.m.
6.
6
6 o'clock. Yep, normal time. Board of Selectmen's rep, Paul.
But they can't. They can't hear.
Sure.
That doesn't work?
The mic might work. No. No, that doesn't work.
Yeah?
Sure.
Paul Breyer, I'm the Selectmen's representative to the Police Commission.
My microphone works?
Yeah. I normally am asked to give some summary comments, and I'd like to do that. So first things first, I guess, is that better? New Year's Eve was busy. And for those people who have children or don't have children, I guess it was a crazy busy time all afternoon and into the night. Linda Murray read a letter from a couple of people last night at the Select Board meeting, and the words fun and the memories of what Wolfeboro is that we like to think about came out a lot. So for the police department and for everybody who took care of everybody during that night, we appreciate that. The second thing, which is the boring stuff, is we are in the middle of the budget. The budget is in the hands of our good friends of the Budget Committee. We've done our end of year, what is called encumbrances. You know, at the end of the year, you owe money, and you have to write it all down so that you can pay the bill in 2025, so we've done that. That'll be on the website. If it's not already there, it'll be on the website. The second thing we've done is we tallied up all the revenue that we brought in from the town, licenses, fees, all of that stuff, because that all has to get sent over to the state, and the state takes a look at that to make sure we are keeping our promises of what we said we'd bring in for revenue. Because if you don't match that stuff up, you get in a little bit of hot water with the state. There are 25 warrant articles that we're going to put in front of the voters. We'll be taping those warrant articles next week. What we do is we explain the warrant article, and then we videotape our perspective on those. Those 25 warrant articles will be going up to the deliberative session. Inside of those warrant articles will be such items as the highway budget, a couple of police cruisers, body cameras, the results of contract discussions if we have those results in hand, and then other things, water pumps. Hello? Yeah. You want me to bang the microphone now to see them? So pump stations and all of that stuff. Next week after next, we're going to have bond hearings. Anytime that we ask to borrow money over $100,000, we got to get the public's permission to do that. And the way in which you do that is you have a public hearing on the amount of money you want to borrow, and then we put it out to you in a warrant article, and you have to vote in a supermajority. I think it's either 2/3 or 3/5, whatever the right math is. It's a big number to get those bonds approved. Union discussions, as was mentioned by by the captain or the chief, continue, and we're hopeful. That's about all I can say about that. I think that the conversations have been well-mannered. They've been very well-mannered, and I think that's important. The deliberative session, where you all get to come into this room and tell us whether you think we're nuts or whether you like what we're doing, is on February 4th. And I encourage people to come, because this is your opportunity to weigh in on budgets and weigh in on what we want to do. And then you ultimately vote on March 11th. And that's all posted by Pat Waterman on the website. Last thing I'll say is that there are openings for a lot of boards and commissions. Pat Waterman has published that. And the openings last from January 22nd to January 31st. If you're interested in becoming a member of the Select Board or a Budget Committee or whatever, you can sign up and you can either buy signs or not, and then you can run for office. And I encourage people to do that. I really do. I think it's, as much as sometimes it's frustrating, it's a damn good town, and it's great to have people who have different perspectives running and sitting in office. So with that, that's all I have to offer. Thank you for letting me have time. Any questions from the commissioners? None. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Budget Committee rep, Tom?
that doesn't bode well on television. I'm Tom Bell. I'm the Budget Committee liaison to the PD. I have been for quite a number of years, but this year it's as challenging as last year, but the work that's been done by the PD has been extraordinary in terms of keeping in mind what the default budget was and their increases, if any, are based on that, and there's actually reductions. So tonight we have the actual revisit of some of the different departments, one of which is the PD, and they're prepared for that. The warrant articles will be looked at again as well, because there's some continuing developments on those. So if you want to brave the snowstorm and come visit us and see what we do, you're welcome to, or tune in to see the proceedings from the recordings. Any questions or comments?
Thanks, Tom. That's at 6 o'clock at the library, correct? Thank you. So we do not have anything scheduled for non-public tonight, is that correct?
No, sir.
Other business or public? I'd just like to make a note for our procedures, which I'm looking at right here. We normally do require to be notified within 24 hours before if anyone wants to be, if ever anyone wants to be put on the agenda for anything. So I notice there's a lot of folks here tonight, much more than we usually get, and you're welcome to like having you. So we'd ask if anyone wants to come up and speak on an issue, just keep that to under 5 minutes. We'd appreciate that. With that being said, if anyone wants to get up and say anything, you're welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Pete Llewellyn. I'm a past member of the Wolfeboro Police Department, where I retired after serving this town for 9 years. My career consisted of over 21 years of full-time police work, 4 years of part-time police work. During the last 25 years, I've been a resident of the town of Wolfeboro, and I've raised a family here. I think it's important people know that I'm not a vindictive man. In fact, some people would even say I'm a little bit forgiving, especially based on the fact that I was wronged by the Wolfeboro Police Department staff, administrative staff, excuse me, and the Wolfeboro Police Commission in 2020. I'm here tonight not to talk about that, but because I'm upset about the way the things are being handled in within my police department, our police department. Let me tell you what my concerns are. I believe that a majority of the police commission is not acting in the best interests of their constituents and the town of Wolfeboro, and that they may have an agenda. I'm tired of hearing stats of the police department instead of what is being done to stem the exorbitantly high rate of seasoned, trained, and well-respected police officers that work or worked for us. It is my understanding that an inordinately high number of internal investigations has been going on within the police department, and I want to know why. Was one of those investigations done by Municipal Resources Incorporated at the request of the Police Commission? And was it actionable when completed? If so, I want to know what actions were taken. I'd like to know how many exit interviews have been offered to the last 10 or 11 officers that have left the department for one reason or another in the last year and a half. I want to know what the current status of the past police chief's investigation that has supposedly been submitted to Police Standards and Training in Concord, and who is following up on that. I've heard this commission refer to the past police chief and state he's retired. Isn't it true that he resigned from his job while being under duress? And that's a rhetorical question. Thank you very much. My hopes are that the next commission meeting that you'll address all of these issues and answer these questions without hiding behind non-public meetings and 91A laws, And if you can't do that, please feel free to submit your own letter of resignation. Thank you for your time, and my hope is that you think long and hard about the direction this police department is heading, because as I see it right now, it has a pretty dismal future.
Thank you. Anybody else? Pete? So I can address these really quick. Obviously, we're not at liberty to talk about, as you know, anyone else, any investigations whatsoever. We can't even confirm or deny that any of them ever existed. Two, that goes the same for, any exit interviews, if any were ever done at all. We cannot discuss those. I'll probably ask the chief to bring, he can certainly bring everyone up to speed on the issue of exit interviews and where we stand today. You mind doing that, chief?
You want to do this? I'll be back next month. You guys can do this next month. We'll talk more about this next month. But I want some answers. I think a lot of people.
So the chief can just discuss about where we are with the exit interviews right now, not individually, but as a practice. Chief, will you bring us up to speed on that?
Sure. Exit interviews is something that I did 2 of them. I did them based upon the fact that it was the resignations. I wasn't aware of why the folks were leaving. They had been in process in backgrounds in other agencies prior to my taking oath of office. So I wanted a little bit more knowledge of the police department, the environment, the history, if you will, and I conducted 2 exit interviews myself. After that, or subsequent to that, I did have some conversation with Kevin Duffy and Michelle Chamberlain, who's the HR officer for the town. It's my belief that an exit interview should not be done by the police chief if it's a police officer leaving. And the biggest reason I had for that was if it's the police chief that caused the departure, that employee may not say that. They may keep that to themselves. I didn't want that to be a hindrance to an employee saying the total truth. And I felt that it was much more important that that employee give whatever information they could give freely to HR. That information through HR would obviously be a personnel issue that would be confidential between the employee and the HR director. But in conversation with Kevin, I told him it was my hope that if there was some issues that were brought up in the exit interview that needed to be addressed with the police administration, how things are done, if there was a certain concern that we could remedy or work on remedying, I would like to be brought into a conversation. And I think we came to a conclusion that that was a best practice. So at this point, I believe that is, if it isn't policy yet by the town or by the HR director, it shall be. I don't know if that answers your question, but
And I can talk briefly about that policy. The chief is correct. We had a conversation with respect to exit interviews relative to the police department and the town. And essentially the policy moving forward from this point forward is anytime a member of the police department leaves the police department, that will trigger a communication from the chief to the HR administrator, who will then reach out to that individual and schedule them for an interview to come in. Realizing that, in the interest of transparency, in the interest of doing business properly, employees who leave the police department, who have insight as to perhaps maybe what's going wrong, what's going right, is valued. And that's the reason why we created that policy with the town. So I do not know if it's a written policy at this point, but henceforth, that's how exit interviews will occur. Thank you, Chief.
thank you.
Effective January 1st.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to address? Please.
My name is Wendy Rogers. I've lived in this community for probably close to 40 years now. My father was also a police officer down in Merrimack, New Hampshire. So I have a great deal of support for the police department, but I will say that this past year I was very disappointed in the fact that there were no visible police in town. I spoke to, and I work here in town, I spoke to business owners. They said exactly the same thing that I did. I would cross from the parking lot at Hunter's over to the park around 4 o'clock every day. I took my life in my hands. People were not stopping. The crosswalk is non-existent as far as I can see drivers. At one point, I was in the middle of the road. I actually felt the car brush my clothes and waved to me and kept going. I had another incident where a truck and a bus, a truck pulling a boat was coming down over the hill. I assume he was distracted because there was a lot of traffic, and I was crossing in the middle of the road, and he left rubber on the road. He had to stand on his brakes. And I do believe the speed limit down there is not 60. I did go up and complain. I've complained about numerous things. I've got no action whatsoever. The answer I believe I got was that, well, we are down there about an hour each day. Well, this is at 4 o'clock, and it's busy at 4. There needs to be more police presence. There was another incident over by Blacksmith Printing, where there's a crosswalk there, and it's the bike trail, rail trail, and I had 3 adult, and it's never kids, it's always adults, that there's a stop sign there. They didn't stop. They just shot right out in front of me. And my window's down, it was during the summer, I said, hey, there's a stop sign there. Just informing them there was a stop sign there. I will repeat what they said just so that you can hear it. Hey, bitch, there's a crosswalk there. They were probably in their 20s, early 30s maybe. And then they gave me the finger. And again, we do have, from what I heard, we do have e-bikes. So I think there needs to be some kind of solution, maybe going through the town or something, where they actually have to stop. Whether we put up a barrier or something, I don't know, but somebody's definitely going to get hurt. Also, I live on College Road. We have complained time after time after time about the speed on that road, which is 30, but most people seem to think it's 60. You could almost fund your department by sitting out there every day and pulling people over. They're coming down over that hill, they're flying. There really is no shoulders on that road. We have people that are walking dogs, pushing baby carriages on bikes, and actually it's dangerous. I don't even ride my bike on that road because it is that dangerous. Earlier, actually it was a year ago, it was in March, I'm crossing the bridge down there on College Road. Here comes a loader, okay? Guy has his phone up here, he's trying to read it as he's crossing over the yellow line on the bridge. And I didn't even report it, because by this time, it's like, why bother? Why bother? No one's listening, no one cares, why bother? It's gonna have to take a tragedy before anybody actually listens to us. And I think a lot of people feel like I do, that it's just, now it's kind of a waste of time. So I hope that this meeting tonight will, start things moving in the right direction, because it needs to be moving in the right direction. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, Fred Kane. I think maybe you're looking at this the wrong way in exit interviews. Maybe you ought to look at stay interviews. Before they're going out the door, it's very hard to retain good people today. I think everyone throughout the whole state, the country, is trying to retain people. We've lost a lot of good people here, and I think you need to retain them. I have a few grandchildren, I got 5, but I got to tell you that one of the officers that had left here recently had bumped into my daughter and her 2 children at the playground over here, and I can't tell you how excited my 2 grandsons were to come home to tell me that they had spoken to, an officer here in Wolfeboro, and they went back and forth, and he was so excited about it, and we've lost that officer now to a fellow town. To me, you need to try to retain them before they're out the door. Maybe do the exit interview, but do a stay interview and try to retain these people before it's too late. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lori Guerra. I have a question about the exit interviews, too. If I'm correct, you said there were 10 or 11 officers that left in a year, and you just started to institute your exit interviews with the new process as of January 1st. Seems to me that there would be a little bit more of a systemic issue that you may want to uncover. I would assume if 10 or 11 officers have left in a matter of a year, and maybe you should pull those others back in and do an exit interview with the ones that left to really find out what's going on here. I mean, I worked in business for years. I know we had a conversation about it. And usually when people are exiting that quickly and en masse, there's a leadership problem also. I'm not saying there's not an employee problem, but there's also maybe a leadership problem. And I ask you to maybe bring back those guys or women who have left and get those exit interviews. That should be very important for you guys to get. So,
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone? Thank everyone for being here tonight. I appreciate it. I mentioned again, our next meeting is Thursday, February 13th.
Oh, I do have a quick thing. While everybody's here, you obviously all have an interest in the health and welfare of your police department. As I might have mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if I did, part of our interview process or our hiring process, since I've arrived, I can't speak before me, is to install a interviewing board. The interviewing board will always consist of at least one citizen from the town. I'm interested in different folks with different backgrounds, with a love of the community and a need to feel involved. You all are here, so you fit that bill. And in being that, if you would be so kind, I have a pad of paper up here. If you spell out your name so I don't have to try to read your signature, if you're interested in that, we will contact you with upcoming interviews of prospective candidates for police officers' positions. And if you're available that date and time, we would love to have you to be a part of the interview process. If you have any other questions about that, certainly come see me after the meeting. I'll explain to you how that works. But I would love to see you all take part. I don't want to see the same people over and over again. I'd like to see a variety of folks from town. Thank you.
Thanks. Just quickly, a few things. Lori, is that right? Yeah. Thanks for your comments. I appreciate it. So, Chief, please correct me if I'm wrong. It was our understanding, and it's something, when I mean us, I mean the staff, the commission, that, and I was kind of surprised as much as anyone, that the town did not have an exit interview policy. Not the agency, the town. And that is being put into motion right now, correct, Chief?
It is. I wouldn't be surprised if the town does have their own policy put in place as well.
Yeah, so, and that was something that, the chief and Kevin spearheaded. And so, obviously, that's important. And we're hoping now that, we're interested in having that policy uniform throughout town government, not just us. So how the fire department does it, the police department does it, the highway department does it, should be uniform, correct, all the way through. And we think and we also are adamant that human resources does the interviews. Not the chief, not us, certainly. And I think that's heading in the right direction. You have any add to that, Chief, Kevin?
No, but I'd like to say something, if that's okay. Listen, I got involved with the police commission because this police department has been through a lot recently in the last few years. And I think it's important to realize that every single individual, whether they worked at the police department, they're still there, or they left, are good people. Everyone sitting at this table here is a good person. Everyone sitting out there is a good person. And it's because, I don't know half of you, but if you're concerned about the police department, that's good enough for me. For you to be here, to voice your concerns as some of you have. I will tell you that the reason I stepped onto the police commission and then subsequently run, and I will run again in March, is because I believe that this town deserves a professional police organization that fairly and impartially enforces state law and town ordinances. And that is exactly, and I know that I'm speaking from the board when I say that, that is what this commission, as it's comprised right now, is focused. That's our goal. An example of that is Chief Warren. And some other examples, which obviously we can't necessarily get into because those occurred and those deliberations and those decisions were made in a non-public. But suffice to say, as I said before, this police commission is working toward that goal of having a professional police department in the town of Wolfeboro, because you deserve that, and I deserve that as a community member as well. So, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin, appreciate that. And just to echo on Kevin's thoughts, the agency certainly has been through a lot, as everyone knows. And we know we're heading in the right direction. That takes time, it's complicated, especially in this line of work. And most importantly, the good work that the chief's been doing, he's also been, you may or may not know, a lot of you, working on preparing the agency for accreditation, for state accreditation. A monumental task. A lot of towns actually hire a person full-time to do that. And he's serving as chief and also preparing the policies, rewriting policies, adding new policies, changing policies, to get us prepared for state accreditation, which we have to do. And it's very complicated, detail-oriented, and time-consuming. Chief, could you just touch on that just a little bit, just on state accreditation, where we're at and why that's important?
Sure. Shortly, to save time, several years ago, and I know Mr. Llewellyn remembers these moments, was CALEA came to town, or towns, and for a very large sum, police departments across the country were accrediting through something called CALEA. CALEA is a private organization, and what it was doing was it was setting standards by which police departments, regardless of their size, would establish policies that were in line with best practices throughout the country. And many police departments went to this. New Hampshire, not so much. Dover, I think, was the first. New Hampshire State Police struggled for years to get there. It was very difficult because one size doesn't fit all. It was during these days in my prior police chief's position that I lobbied hard for a New Hampshire state accreditation, one that applies to the state of New Hampshire, not just everybody. And we're a different place than California and Texas. They tried it for a while. It just didn't gain any traction until recently. And the New Hampshire State Accreditation Board was born through the New Hampshire Police Standards and Training. It was at that point that I began conversation with the former police chief here to move the department towards that accreditation. It is, it's a set of standards that other agencies are following. It provides liability protection. It provides best practices throughout law enforcement, regardless of the size of the town, and it would fit very well for the town of Wolfeboro. So upon accreditation, that means that you are changing your policies. I will tell you that some of the policies, and some of the folks in this room know that, were borrowed from other agencies and just kind of tweaked and changed a little bit with a little bit of whiteout, and you remember those days. Those days are over. We're writing policies that are best practices, and we're making them applicable to the town of Wolfeboro. And we're educating our officers to each of those policies. And part and parcel to that is a program called Power DMS. Power DMS is a online portal where officers can go to their policy as long as they have an internet connection on their phone or on their home computers or wherever. And these policies can be updated as need be and sent to the commissioners for their signature. If they agree with the policy, they sign it, as by statute they are the policy makers of the agency. So far so good. We've put through approximately 45 policies. We have about that many to go, but they're the lesser policies, if you will, the really important ones, pursuits and deadly force and non-deadly force, and these types of things have been done. You should, and we are working towards the availability of most of these policies to the general public through that Power DMS. That takes a little bit of work, and we're working on that, but our priority is to get the policies in first. But then you'll be able to go online and actually read the policies. Call me on them when you want to. The other thing I want to quickly note to Ms. Rogers is I apologize for your events. We do try, at least I know we've tried to get people out there. And there are several officers within the agency, both last summer and currently, that look forward to being out. Perhaps not on a day like today, but on the warmer days, they would rather be out on foot talking to folks than driving around in a police car. I apologize that you had the experiences you did, and we'll do better. And that's the best I can offer you right now. I wasn't aware of the College Road speed problem that you specifically called for, but we have the equipment available to see to that, so we will do that. You have my word on that. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Chief. Unless anyone has, yes, sir.
Accreditation is typically 2 to 3 years. We're into our first year. We just finished.
And I think, too, and correct me if I'm wrong, not only do we have to have the policies in place to apply for accreditation, we also have to demonstrate enforcement of the policies, correct?
We have to, enforcement is proof. According to accreditation, some of you may even know about this, you have to prove that you are doing that policy, so that's what takes most of the time. The writing of the policies is actually the short period, and the proving the policy is another one, and then we'll have an accreditation team come in that's not attached to the town, and they test us. Policies are written by myself, investigator Andy Shigori, and we are also getting assistance from the New Hampshire Chiefs of Police and the International Association of Chiefs of Police.
I wasn't going to do this, but my name is Carol Llewellyn, and I just have questions. And I don't think that this is the right time because there's a whole lot of people that have better things to do than listen to me ramble. But I would like to know, if I wrote a list of questions, who would I send that to, and would they be answered?
Would depend on what the questions are, ma'am.
Okay.
Are they about police procedure?
No, more about the town, policing in our town, and like what's going on with the board and things like that.
I would guess that you might want to send it to Sean Coop.
Okay.
And if they are appropriate for me to answer, I know he would get them to me.
Okay. All right. So, Sean.
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Sir.
Again, I'm Pete Llewellyn. My question is to the chief, did you say you've been working on the accreditation for about a year?
About a year.
Okay. Does the accreditation include anything about retention of police officers?
Not that I'm aware of for the state accreditation. I believe CALIA does.
Okay. Do you have a
But
plan?
if it does, I'll certainly be,
Okay, do you have a plan? You're saying that you're writing an accreditation of your own for the town of Wolfeboro Police Department, aren't you? Isn't that what you said?
it's not on my own. It's a state accreditation.
Okay,
That policies would be applicable to the town. In other words, there are some towns that don't have a downtown. We do. So in the policies, part of the policies would be a foot patrol or a bicycle patrol. Other towns wouldn't have that. So that would be specific to the town. As far as retention, that's a conversation that is ongoing with the commissioners. There are my ideas for retention, and there's people that are in other communities that have ideas for retention, and certainly the townspeople have their ideas of retention. I plan on gathering as many as I can and discussing those with the board as well.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
And just to touch on something, to maybe clarify at one point, remember, even though the chief writes the policies, the board approves the policies, you know, once the town is accredited, you know, professionally, that has to be approved. So all his policies or our policies have to be approved. So if for some reason they're not correct, I don't say we're back to the drawing board, but we'll start again. And we're doing this for the one reason to do this, is, you know, there's a standard nationwide now about professionalism of law enforcement agencies. And by going through this procedure and getting to this point, we're ensuring ourselves and you, we're at the pinnacle. This agency is going to be at the top. With policies, with procedures, with rules and regulations, and we stay the art on how we do every little thing every day. And that's our goal. And it's a lot. It's very time consuming. Chief is doing a fantastic job. We have him here for a reason. He's been, you may not know, besides his years as chief, he's been, you know, a professor up at Plymouth State, adjunct professor that stands in training. He does a lot of training for the State Police Academy. They have him come down and train. He's the right guy to get us through this. We're confident of that. And we're going to be much better for it at the end. And again, it's complicated, it's time-consuming, would ask for patience. I know the chief has an open door policy. You're welcome to walk in at any time, right, Chief? And ask him any questions about that. But we're close to getting that done, and I can't wait to see the end results.
I just want to quickly add, I appreciate the eulogy, but I make mistakes. I make a lot of them. I'm not afraid to admit that I do. The difference is I hope I learn by them. But Mr. Llewellyn made a statement about his experience. Experience is great, as long as we learn from it, and I think Peter has as well. I will tell you this, I am a chief that does not believe in a bunker mentality. I'm not hiding in my office, I'm not hiding away from you all. I would just ask that you come in and see me if you have questions. If you want to see the accreditation standards, I'll be happy to share that with you as well. That's all public. If it's something that interests you. Or if you have a concern, give us a call and I'll make time to come meet with you if that's something you'd rather do. I'm not sure I'd want to walk into that building at this point anyway. But if you would like to come or like me to come meet with you and answer questions, I'd be happy to do that. Every day I've been here has been a learning experience, and they've all not been great days. Some are hard, some are difficult, and some I've learned some lessons, and some I have realized that I've made mistakes. And I hope I do better. I hope the police department does better. And thank you for your support thus far. I appreciate that. We'll get there. John?
Last but not, sorry. Last but not least, I know everyone here seems to be pretty well dialed into what's going on across the country in reference to law enforcement. As you all know, many agencies throughout New England and the country are very short on personnel right now. And I took note of something very unusual about 2 weeks ago down in Massachusetts. You may or may not know, Massachusetts, most departments, not all, hire through a civil service process where officers take a test and all their names go into one pool, and Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, Brockton choose from that pool. They're having such trouble with people, of getting people, that they've actually, for the first time that I've ever heard of, relaxed that rule. So now towns in Mass can hire up to 50% of the needed personnel without going through civil service. They can actually do the process themselves. And, I found that amazing when you think about it. A town has to go through the state to hire their police personnel. Unlike, we are directly involved in that here ourselves, as the chief said already, and that he invited any one of you to participate in that. But they're relaxing that now to help the towns, to try to get people, to hire people. So, so we do understand that. We see it every day. And I talked about last month's meeting. We touched on a little bit how short the state police is in personnel, how short the city of Rochester is, how short Nashua is. And, unfortunately, officers, they're in the driver's seat now. There was time during my career where there was nowhere to go. All seats were filled. It was just, you couldn't really jump from department to department. Now, every department has an opening. So if you're, a good young officer, the world's your oyster. You can go anywhere you want to go, nationwide pretty much. And now it's something I didn't want to see, that officers in New Hampshire can bypass civil service and go down to Massachusetts and get an extremely high-paying job in one of those communities. I was hoping I didn't have to put that out there, because I don't want any other officers to hear that. But, what they make down there and what they make up here is a huge difference. Huge difference. So that's what we're up against. Unless anyone has anything else, I'll... Of course. Of course. The right... That's right. Of course. And unless we hear any other comments, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Also moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.